about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, and happy Friday, everybody. Woo. Yeah, I got to tell you, I used to not like Fridays because, my weekends would be busier, but I don't know, I'm starting to like them now. A good day yesterday with the draft. Got a little bit of drama. I mean, I understand what I think. We got Cowboys got a safety and that, but I was really, really happy that Fernando Mendoza is coming to the Las Vegas Raiders. I thought that was very, very cool. Good guy, really good guy, and loves family. Just really, I'm really, really excited. We do have Kirk Cousins with the Las Vegas Raiders, so Fernando Mendoza is going to get his NFL feet wet first, but it'll be very, very interesting to see. And we got an amazing quarterback and the Heisman Trophy winner from this year, so pretty happy about that. A little bit of drama, right, with the Patriots coach Mike Vrabel. And alleged affair with Diana Russini. Is it Russini? If I'm pronouncing the name right. Hold on a second. I hope I have that. Yeah, Russini. I really, don't follow a lot of that. I mean, sadly, if it was an alleged affair, it's a private matter. In fact, Roger Goodell was asked, if the NFL is going to take any action. He's like, this is a private affair. And I don't even think Mike Vrabel in his 2 press conferences actually admitted to having an affair. He said he's going to spend time with family. He's not going to be there for the draft. I'm sure he's already given his opinions on the draft. And yeah, usually you want the head coach there. Being that the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl, didn't win. I think he's a fixture of the Patriots now. And in fact, I really liked the guy before I heard all this. I really liked him. I thought he was a fantastic coach. So I don't think he's going anywhere. But in terms of what's happening with the draft, he's going to be spending time with family. But the question that keeps coming up is, if this relationship has gone on for years, allegedly, how does an extramarital affair last years? So I don't know who the photographer was, but somebody got pictures of Mike Vrabel with Diana Russini back in, I think, March of 2020. I think it was like March 11th, right before the lockdown. And allegedly in these pictures, they were kind of kissing each other. And this was in 2020. So we're talking 6 years ago. And again, I don't really care what they did. I am, though, really feeling bad for the families, because he was married at the time. I think he was married to his wife since the 90s. She was about to get married, or maybe she wasn't married at the time. Although she made a comment about how she had to interview Jimmy Garoppolo. I met Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, he is fine. I believe she had to interview him the day before. And I get it. She's flirty. She's talkative about that. I mean, that doesn't mean she cheats. But apparently these photos came out the other day, maybe yesterday. I think they were sold. Who's holding on to these things and selling them years later? I mean, and then destroying families. But somebody got some money for these. And anonymous accounts was that, nobody really knew who they were. They were just kissing and whatever. And I don't know why this person felt a picture was necessary. Maybe he knew that, that's the Titans head coach. But how if, let's say, they were cheating on their spouses, how does that go for years? How do you be in a relationship with somebody and then marry somebody, but still keep that relationship up? I mean, I'm thinking if you fall for somebody and you want to be with them, you be with them then. Tell your family, I'm a jerk. I'm going to be moving on. I hate the fact that I have to do this, but but I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to, give your family that choice. I mean, and they'll probably say, go bounce. But how would you for years do this or walk down the aisle with somebody when your heart is with somebody else? And sadly, there's a lot of people, that might not be what they're meant to be, or they fall for somebody and they feel like, gosh, I should have been with them. That happens. Okay. That's not that uncommon. But what you do is you go, look, I made a decision. I made a commitment. And this is the reason why I'm doing it. And I'm going to, be the best husband or the best wife and the best dad or mom, because this was the decision I made, and this is the commitment I made. I mean, you could be attracted to people all the time. I mean, I got to meet Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, God. And the funny thing is I froze. I hardly said anything. He was the one that initiated conversation with me. And I was like, hi. I mean, it was horrible. It was not the best interaction, because, everything I wanted to say, I was like, oh my God, you're like the hottest thing ever. But I didn't want to say that. I was like, hi, thank you for doing this. What you're doing for charity is awesome. Can you sign, the shirt? I didn't say, will you sign my bra? I was really, really classy, and appropriate, because I'm a married woman, even though Jimmy Garoppolo's on my list, I'm a married woman. I'm not going to, act on it. Not that Jimmy Garoppolo would have ever wanted to, but, if you're in this, there's this TV show, DTF, St. Louis. I liked the first couple episodes. Then it kind of got strange. It's a little sad, but it's a comedy, and the actors did a good job. But it's basically about, being in extramarital relationships. And I understand there's some people where that's what they do. They have open relationships, or they're swingers, and if that's something you as a couple want to do, that's on you. You have every right to do whatever. But when you have somebody who is at home, with your family, and they don't think you're and you travel a lot, and you're, taking advantage of that situation because you're away. Another thing very, very interesting is you might want to check your spouse's Google Docs. Google Docs is a way where people cheat, because now your texts and your emails, can be verified. What a lot of people do is they pretend like it's somebody at work. So they, on a Google Docs, will have their lovey-dovey conversations. Don't ask. Sorry if I ruined it for some of you guys. So, we talk about cheating and what to do if you suspect it. But honestly, if you really have the hots for somebody, I mean, just let the spouse know, and let the spouse be free, because that's not cool to them. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99-799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99-799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99-799. Again, FREE to 99-799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So you hear a lot of politicians discuss basic income and universal income, where if they give populations just outright money every month, they can help get them out of poverty. Now, on the outset, superficially, it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. If you could get somebody out of poverty, because a lot of us who struggle, we're like, gosh, if I only had another few $100s, I would be able then to buy down this debt. I would be able to put some money away and save, and you hear people talk about if I just had a little bit more. So the idea of what if the government does that has been appealing to some. Would it work? I mean, everybody I have helped with financially, it never really solved the problem. And one of the things that I noticed is whoever I gave money to and helped, they just increased their spending. And so they never really got out of that rut. I was hoping they would. And maybe they felt better every month getting money. But if their habits didn't change, just like with the GLP-1 agonists, right here, and the weight loss, you could get the weight loss shot, but if you're not doing everything else to help lose the weight, it's not going to happen. However, you can't use what I found as scientific evidence. So what has actually happened with programs? Well, apparently the results are in on one California basic income experiment, and so this is, I believe, being reported by MSN and Fox News. Okay. So there was a California guaranteed income pilot program that was supposed to lift families out of poverty. And the study came from UC Davis researchers. And I guess it was called Yolo County Basic Income Program. It was a no strings attached cash assistance to a highly targeted group of at-risk residents. The payments served as a temporary lifeline. And the researchers found that with a significant majority of the participants, it didn't break the cycle of poverty at all. They said, while basic income reduced some of the immediate urgency around money and allowed families some stability, most participants still had unmet financial needs. So this was different, they said, from universal basic income by focusing exclusively on families with kids under age 6 who were already enrolled in the state's CalWorks program. And so this was like a targeted basic income. I think this happened in 2022. And they said it's just not randomly redistributing wealth amongst a group of people. They were laser focused on one particular group. So what happened? Well, they gave monthly checks averaging $1,289 for a 2-year period. Now, the goal was to raise the family income to 200% of the federal poverty level. And so the UC Davis findings published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found that there's this quote unquote survival mode trap. So the participants said, yeah, it helped cover the predictable expenses. So they could use that $1,200 to help with rent, to help with food, to help with the predictable. But they were in trouble with the unpredictable. Now they have a car repair. Now they have and I don't know if it's like, well, do car shield. I do car shield. I'm mixed on it because they're still deductible. And we used car shield, and the part they put in was a used part. And then within a month, I had to bring the car back in because the part failed. So I'm a little mixed on the whole car shield thing. But it is some sort of insurance. It's kind of like, health insurance. It's like car insurance. But the researchers said that if there was a car repair, a medical bill, or a sudden loss of employment, it quickly wiped out any progress made through the monthly stipends. One participant told researchers that without the program, they would likely be out there looking for places to sleep. But the study concludes that despite these lived experience successes in preventing homelessness, a clear path to total financial self-sufficiency remained elusive for most. They say despite the lack of long-term financial independence cited in the Yolo County study, advocates do continue to push for the expansion of such programs. So, and then, of course, they're worried about the fiscal cliff, where once the program stops, We've been promising you $1,200 now every month for 2 years. Now you're not getting it anymore. If you haven't changed, your habits or been able to readdress, some of the financial issues, get the job, hold the apartment, unfortunately, you're gonna be homeless. So we have to be very, very careful with the promising of the money and then taking it away, especially if they've been relying on that. So, what do we do with our poverty numbers? We talked about how with Medicaid, when it was expanded during the Great Recession and through Obamacare, it went through, we had about 65 million people. Now we have about 72 million people. That's more than I believe the population of England on Medicaid. Still, never sunsetted. People just either stayed on it or they needed it, or we have more people in this country now that need it. And so when you look at that, we're what that's 1 in 5, 20% of our country needs government, at least needs government assistance for medical care. And that means if they qualify for that, they're, close to the range of poverty. We're not that a rich country. How do you get somebody from poverty to not poverty? Well, a job would be fantastic. If you could get them a job, and a job that pays well, if you could get their costs down, their rent down. And we have these programs. We have jobs, we have work programs, we have rental assistance, government housing. We also have food. I mean, there's a lot of benefits. And there was a study that came out after COVID where they said in some states, for somebody to get off the government help, that job would have to give them about $100,000 a year to make it worth them not, because with all the government funding, they're able to. And so we do have some individuals that are not homeless because of all the funding. But to spend tens of thousands of dollars per person, what happens when you run out of the money? Or you just print more and now you devalue the dollar. We have to figure out how we can have lower expenses and more predictable work environments. With AI, that's tricky. Now, one thing that I suggested is I don't want to expand government. I don't want big government. But I think there's a lot of things the government could do and hire people for. And then have daycare within, I know Mondani wants to do like universal daycare. What I think could be pretty cool is a lot of these efforts that need to be done throughout, whether it's, like I really thought that Obamacare, all the millions upon millions, if not trillions of billions, the billions of dollars spent on Obamacare, you open up free clinics throughout the United States. And then you hire workers, and and then you have daycare, and you have. I mean, there were ways where the government could have put that money into something that hired people, that gave free medical care, and then didn't necessarily just give the money to the insurance companies. This way, people had a clinic to go into. I'm not going to beat that to death because that was an idea I had 16 years ago that no one listened to, and I think we could have done pretty well with that, but. There's a lot of, whether it's roads or things or there's a lot of, shall we say, aspects to government where they could hire workers and then allow there to be the daycare setting, even if it's for 20 hours a week. And then we get them a job, and then we look at how we can negotiate housing and costs. What we're doing is it's not enough. We still have homelessness. We still have major poverty. And we need to really identify what that is. Now, somebody could say, well, a lot of these individuals are disabled. Well, then they're not on Medicaid, they're on Medicare. Okay, Medicare handles that. And then we have Social Security. So if somebody is disabled and can't work at all, we have funding for that. But we're talking about Medicaid. Medicaid are individuals that it's not medically related. These are individuals that are more income qualifying. So it shows we have a problem. We have a big problem. We have millions upon millions of people who are not making enough money that need this. Now, people say, well, it should be the employer. The employer should be paying for insurance. Well, that's kind of why we had more people fall onto Medicaid, because once the employers were mandated to cover very expensive health insurance that spiked in rates, they were like, you know what, if I have fewer employees, I pay less. You should never have somebody's insurance tied to their employer. Now that the average job only lasts a year or two, it makes no sense. We need the insurance separate. So do we continue with this universal income or there's a basic income? I don't see how it's going to work long term. We got to do something because we don't want people homeless. People need to be able to afford their apartment. They need to be able to afford a place to live. I mean, now, is it that California is so expensive that maybe we need to move individuals to a cheaper part of the country so we could have cheaper housing? I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but saying, well, we're going to give a bunch of Californians money when California is very expensive. We might have to reevaluate what's a better long-term thing because the money stopped. And now there's this fiscal cliff. The 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away. Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Dahlia. As many of you know, I lost another colleague to suicide. And tragically, tens of thousands of Americans, including hundreds of physicians, take their lives each year. Why is suicide so common? Why doctors? Even medical students have alarming suicide rates. Nurse burnout is at an all-time high. Maybe it's the monstrous workloads we face every day. Maybe it's because of burnout, malpractice suits, online reviews. Medicine has changed so rapidly that it's almost unrecognizable to those of us who entered this field and wanted to take it by storm. But there's not a lot of resources out there for healthcare providers who deny that they are struggling or at risk. So my book, The Depressed Doctor, aims to change that for both the physician and medical student and anyone else who is struggling. Find The Depressed Doctor on Amazon or at drdahlia.com. And if you are currently struggling, call or text 988, the National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline. Don't wait. The silence is killing us. And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So yesterday, President Donald Trump had a press conference in the Oval Office. There was an adorable little 2-year-old boy who apparently was going to have permanent deafness. And I believe a drug from Regeneron helped to reverse that. And you see him running around the Oval Office. I mean, just how the videos, those are going to be absolutely priceless. He's just kind of rolling around and covering his face and being all cute. And I miss my boys at that age. They were fun. Now it's, back talking and keeping the seat up, and not flushing the toilet. I mean, just enjoy the cuteness when they're that cute. I'm ready for grandkids. It's going to be a little while, but I got to tell you now, I really miss the whole baby thing. But anyway, back to President Donald Trump. He announced that Regeneron, a large pharmaceutical company, has signed a new and executive drug pricing agreement as part of the administration's initiative to lower the cost of drugs. For those of you that haven't gone to Trump RX, check it out. The prices of drugs are good. He's been able to lower like those Wegovy pills you can now get, I think, for like $149 and GoodRx is starting to match that too. But Trump has been negotiating with these companies so that these drug prices could go down. And we're seeing that happen. Regeneron is going to now cut the price of their cholesterol-lowering treatment Praluent to $225, down from $535 for patients buying it on the Trump RX website. And it also means new medicines manufactured by Regeneron will receive the most favored nation prices, rates that match drug prices to those in other countries. Now, this has been something that I've never been able to answer that to 100% certainty, why America is spending more for their drugs than any other country. It makes no sense. Where you could buy these other drugs in other countries for cheaper. And good for Trump for addressing that most favored nation price. Now, Newsweek is reporting that Trump sent letters to executives at 17 major pharmaceutical companies about lowering the cost of drugs and implementing these most favored nation rates for medications. 16 deals have been made by the end of January. This is the 17th. So it looks like, I'm assuming from Newsweek, they all responded. They say Americans are paying almost 3 times more for prescription drugs than patients in other wealthy nations, so Trump is trying to tackle this. Now, per the White House fact sheet on the detail, all new Regeneron medicines are going to receive MFN prices for U.S. patients. According to the Regeneron database, below are all the drugs in the pipeline at various clinical stages that could eventually have price cuts. So an immune cell therapy for ovarian cancer, a gene silencing therapy for Alzheimer's, a gene silencing therapy for people with metabolic disorder, dyslipidemia, one for paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, a metabolic dysfunction associated steatohepatitis or MASH, one for Huntington's disease, another for metabolic dysfunction associated steatotic liver disease, another one for Parkinson's. I mean, these are just a lot of, because, not only not only is this about the drugs that people want to get like Ozempic, et cetera, but individuals who are trying to live with a debilitating disease, these drugs are expensive. These are monoclonal antibodies. In fact, Trump got a Regeneron drug, a monoclonal antibody, according to the company, when he had COVID. I mean, it was a little touch and go when he had COVID, and he was at Walter Reed. And so the monoclonal antibodies helped fight and helped address the virus and try to stop any more of the cytokine storm. You had to catch it before the cytokine storm. People always ask about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. These drugs, if they're going to be used, need to be used early on. It's very, very difficult. A lot of people were saying, why are the doctors pushing back? Why won't they, while the patient's in the hospital, give them the ivermectin? Well, because how these medicines were studied and what some of the studies showed is that it prevented the phagocytosis and the attachment by the body, the body's absorption of the virus, or it made the absorption or the endosome more acidic, so the virus really couldn't survive the attachment. And so just like with Tamiflu and flu, it needs to be kicked in as early as possible, because, or even prevention, because once you're full blown, then most of your symptoms are the body's response to the virus. So, the monoclonal antibody treatment, again, worked, but it had to be initiated early on. So when you look at some of these drugs that, and in the meantime, I think there's a whole list of drugs Newsweek is reporting for DVT, after total knee replacement therapy, birch allergy, cat allergies. There's a Regeneron medication antibody for that. So there's these are things that you might not necessarily need to ask your doctor for, but your doctor is going to be recommending based on your conditions. We need them cheaper, and we don't want to be spending any more than any other country. If England is paying less, we need to pay less. That it's just not fair. So this deal with Regeneron is now the 17th. The other 16 drug companies that are offering drugs on the Trump RX website and minimizing and discounting costs include Pfizer. Pfizer was one of the first to jump on. AstraZeneca, EMD Serono, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Amgen, Bristol Myers Squibb, Boehringer Ingelheim, Genentech, Gilead, GlaxoSmithKline, Merck, Novartis, Sanofi, AbbVie, Johnson & Johnson. So this is huge. And Trump has kind of a tough road ahead with the midterms because people are not happy with the economy. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. And so how do you make things cheaper? Well, one thing that has been very, very painful for Americans is healthcare. And now, mind you, part of this is your choice. If you wanted to go on an $1,100 a month Ozempic shot, okay, that's not on Biden or Trump. I mean, those are, you're choosing to pick a drug. Trump, though, getting that drug down in price is helpful, but it's still expensive. For some of you, you're still paying $300, $400, $500 a month for it. That's if you are struggling with bills, I would really, really rethink that and try to come up with a more cost-effective way to lose weight. Because once you stop that medication, oftentimes you rebound, and after a while that medicine wears off. And I think we are seeing a lot of that. But the health insurance costs, that's Obamacare. Obamacare really, really screwed us over. With the exception of the pre-existing conditions and including physicals, What they did is they allowed the insurance companies to skyrocket our costs. And health insurance is unaffordable for most people. And rather than us get the money, the insurance company's getting the money. I like the idea that Trump said, well, why don't we give the Americans the subsidies? Why don't we use that money for health savings accounts? So if then, an insurance company says, well, yeah, we're going to charge you now $1,500 a month because we're getting subsidies. If they're not getting those subsidies, they're not going to sell a $1,500 a month health insurance plan. So they're going to have to start bringing down the prices. Now, mind you, in the insurance company's defense, if somebody does have hepatitis, cancer, end-stage renal disease, they're going to be spending money. I mean, we're doing so much more now to save people's lives, and we have so many more options. So it is difficult to pay for somebody if they are sick. But if you want to attract non-sick people, healthy people to pay premiums, you're going to have to come up with cheaper plans. Because now with Obamacare, if pre-existing conditions, which I agree with, have to be covered, the average healthy person is like, nah, I'm not going to be spending $1,000 or $1,500 for a monthly insurance plan. Bringing down the cost of drugs is also going to help. Whether the insurance companies are going to drop their premiums is another thing. It depends on if they're still going to get Obamacare subsidies. So we'll see. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme. The solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, I don't mind snowstorms. I don't mind hurricanes. I even don't mind earthquakes. I'm just freaked out by tornadoes. These tornadoes and you would think, there's scarier things than wind, but I got to tell you, they're deadly. I mean, any of the above are deadly. The Midwest is more prone to them. They get these supercell thunderstorms that spawn these tornadoes. You get cool, drier air in the upper levels, caps the warm, humid surface air, and the warm and cold fronts meet. They spin around each other. It's a kind of a unique collision of wind speeds and directions. It's an unstable atmosphere. And sadly, we see it a lot in the Great Plains, the Midwest, and the South. You can see tornadoes, throughout the country. I mean, you can see them. I think in Nevada we've had some tornadoes. You see them back east, but most of the West or most of the Great Plains, Midwest, and South are have a more unstable, shall we say, atmosphere. The conditions are perfect then for these supercells, which are very, very powerful thunderstorms that can churn out tornadoes. And so, sadly, we saw 10 injured and homes destroyed after tornadoes hit through northern Oklahoma. I'm sure many of you guys saw the videos. Several homes and structures were destroyed, 10 people injured. 6 tornadoes moved through northern Oklahoma on Thursday. Thank God no deaths have been reported as of this morning. But Garfield County Emergency Manager said at least 10 people got injured in the Gray Ridge neighborhood area of Enid. Thank God no fatalities. And we're still kind of in rescue mode. There's been some residents that have had to be rescued from impacted areas. But I got to tell you, these winds just rip through. And at least 40 homes in one area sustained some level of damage. So on Friday, state officials released a situation update saying the Oklahoma Highway Patrol Emergency Response Team reported approximately 40 homes with some level of damage in Enid. And you see on footage just the destruction. So what do you do when there's a tornado? So always, be aware. Luckily, we do have some advanced warning systems. My folks lived in Kansas, and so when I was in Kansas, you would hear the alarms. And luckily, there's many areas where there's basements. My family in Omaha, who live in apartments, there's shelters that are, in apartment complexes, shelters. I think every apartment complex has to have some form of a shelter. Interestingly, though, you need to be careful when you run into one of those because apparently homeless people may be living in those shelters. And so you don't want to startle them or get attacked. So you kind of want to make sure you go into a shelter with somebody and check the area first. I was looking at some shelters when I was in Omaha and all the doors were closed. And so I wanted to kind of keep privacy because I figured there were some people in there last time I was there, they were wide open so that you could run in there if you needed to. So my guess is there's people in there. But stay alert, follow like NOAA weather radio, make sure you have radio. Don't just rely on digital. Make sure you have access to, don't buy a car that's like, well, we just need satellite and we don't really need AM radio. No, you want to make sure you can access the emergency broadcast system. That's very, very important. If a tornado hits and you're at your house, go to your basement, a safe room, or an interior room away from windows. Don't forget about pets, according to weather.gov, if time allows. Oh, no. I mean, the pets are coming with me first. I'll probably remember the pets before the family. I mean, dogs, although they're pretty smart because they're going to be kind of running around going, something's up with the weather. My animals do not like the wind. And they look to me like do something. So I think I could kind of, lasso them and rally them up if we had to. I don't have a basement. I live in Southern Nevada. We don't really have a lot of basements. So what you might want to do is go into the bathroom. If you have a bathtub, a lot of us don't have bathtubs anymore. We have showers because I don't take bubble baths. I mean, maybe if I have a rubber ducky, I might, but I really am not a bath taker. But if you do have a bathtub, that's a good place to kind of hunker down in. If you are at workplace or school, there should be a tornado drill and process. Okay, you proceed to your tornado shelter quickly and calmly. Stay away from the windows. Do not go to large open rooms like cafeterias, gymnasiums, or auditoriums. Why? Because there's a little bit more structure with the smaller ones. If you are outside, you want to seek shelter inside a sturdy building immediately if a tornado is approaching. Sheds and storage facilities are not safe. Neither is a mobile home or a tent. You want to, if you can, get into a nice brick, solid building. If you are driving, don't try to outdrive the vehicle or try to get camera footage to sell to TMZ. All right? And you don't want to be in your vehicle. The wind will lift your vehicle. We all saw Twister and what happened to the van. Right? We don't want to, the old Twister. movie. Yeah, that's not good. Try to drive your butt to a closest shelter. If you're unable to make it to a shelter, either get down in your car, cover your head, or abandon your car and seek shelter in a low-lying area such as a ditch or ravine. This is according to weather.gov. Yeah, that would be pretty frightening. Yeah. I have never really actually been in, I've been in a snowstorm and I've been in an earthquake. I've just never been in a tornado. And that's some pretty frightening stuff. And so Godspeed. I hope these individuals, can, regroup. The LaGuardia accident that happened, we got a little bit of details on the investigation and the report. And so apparently there were a few issues that went wrong. If you listen to the controller, they did try to stop the truck. If you remember, there was a fire truck that was responding to a United Airlines plane because there was a smell. So the fire truck was cleared to cross the runway to get to that United Airlines plane. However, there was I think an Air Canada, or was it a Canadian? Yeah, an Air Canada plane, that regional jet operated by Jazz Aviation, that unfortunately was on the runway at the same time. You hear the controller yell to stop the truck, and when they realized the crash was imminent, one of the firefighters told investigators he didn't realize that the warning was for them until they saw the plane barreling towards him. So 2 pilots were killed. Young Canadian pilots were killed in this crash. 39 people injured. One, I believe there was a flight attendant who was flown. She was in her seat, strapped to her seat, but she was flown about 330 feet and survived it. So at 11:07 p.m., the local air traffic controller called Tower cleared Jazz Flight 646 to land on LaGuardia's runway 4. 21 seconds later, a convoy of fire trucks left the station to respond to an emergency where a United plane reported an odor in the cabin on the other side of the airport. Nearly 2 minutes after the plane was cleared to land, at 11:37:04 p.m., the same controller instructed the fire trucks to cross the active runway. Not sure why. The jet was just 130 feet above the ground and a half a mile from the runway. At the time, the red stoplights embedded in the taxiway in front of the truck were illuminated. So there's also lights on the runway to say, stop, plane's coming. Somehow, I guess the truck didn't see it. Were the lights blinding? I don't know. 7 seconds later, the plane crossing on the runway. Moments later, the controller shouted, stop, stop, stop. Then later said, truck 1, stop, stop, stop. 4 seconds later, the plane hit the fire truck going 104 miles per hour. One of the firefighters in the truck told investigators he heard the first call from the tower to stop, but didn't realize it was for them until they were on the runway and saw the plane coming at them. Gosh, how frightening. The fire truck's experience was about 3 years experience. The other firefighter had about 12 years. Now, the air traffic controllers, one had 18 years experience. He had been on duty for less than an hour, so it wasn't an overworked sort of scenario. There was another one on duty that night that was a controller in charge. They were both qualified. But unfortunately, this happened. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.